got actually a new monitor set up. This is a standing desk, but every now and then I just like to sit down. So I got those tall drafting chairs. But one of the things I did was I have an external monitor and then my laptop on a stand here. I added a swivel arm and have the actual I mounted the monitor onto the arm there and then moved the mic over, and then this kind of actually brings it closer, which I think will help with some of the audio quality.
Got it. Okay. Sounds good.
So what's new?
The 5-year-old is playing on the iPad, so I'm wondering if I need to get up and close the doors. He gets loud. So I don't know. He can't play these games in isolation. He gets on there, and you'll probably hear him like have an outburst in a few minutes about whatever he has going on. I think he just likes hearing himself scream. He recently found my ukulele,
Nice.
and has been wandering the house just strumming open chords on it. And then the other day he started strumming and singing "Old MacDonald Has a Farm," but not the traditional way. He's singing it like an '80s glam rocker with like the scream and the. I'm like, it's something.
That is awesome. I need to see a video of that.
I'm trying to get a video, but every time I pull out my phone, he knows what I'm doing and he just clams up. So I need to find a way to get it without him knowing that I'm trying to do it. So,
so you made me think of something. So we talk about like the '80s glam rock. So there's this show on Netflix that my in-laws got JP hooked on. When he would go, when we take him over there, they would put that on. It's called Word Party.
Oh
And
yeah.
I find it terribly, incredibly creepy. It's a creepy show. Just several aspects of it, and some part of it is they reuse the same songs over and over from episode to episode. And there's this one song. I'm like, there's a total missed opportunity with nobody turning this into an '80s ballad.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking like the hair metal.
Yeah.
Hair metal band, ballad.
Yeah. Yes. Every CD had to have at least one ballad on it from the hair metal band, right?
Exactly.
I'm sure there was some good Skid Row, Poison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm dating myself.
Well, have you seen like that one Geico commercial with the band Rat?
Yeah. We
Yeah,
have a bit of a rat problem.
We have a rat problem. Well, that's actually a new song off a new album, apparently.
Oh, really?
I heard a DJ on the radio talking about where the band's kind of said, yeah, like we've actually seen an uptick in people buying our music. It's introduced our music to a new generation.
That is awesome. Rat.
Yeah.
A side note, I don't know what it is about insurance companies because they're the most archaic, stodgy, just crap companies that you want to deal with. But damn it if their commercials aren't the most amazing, entertaining commercials. Like across the board, like I'm so into the one where the guy's doing the he's helping people not become their parents.
I saw that last night. I saw one of them last night.
And the one I really like the one where like they go out to like a Lowe's or a Home Depot or something, and he's like, I'm like, it's just so perfect. It's so perfect and funny.
Yeah, that's actually the one I saw last night. It was the first time I saw that, and I thought it was great because, like, at one point, he's like, "Well, use this, you'll get this done."
Yeah,
he didn't ask.
Yeah,
he didn't ask.
And then at the end, he's like backing him up. He's like, "Nope, you don't know him."
And then I love like the three. He and two of them are standing there, and the person with like blue hair walks by.
Yeah.
They're all staring.
We all see
it.
Blue. He has blue hair. Anyway, it's an interesting anomaly where, if you've ever worked with a insurance company, if you've ever dealt with fintech from a B2B perspective, just how like they are so uptight about everything, right? and
Hmm.
the commercials and all this just give an image of what they aren't. And I find it this strange like juxtaposition of the reality of what insurance companies are and the commercials that they put out there. I don't know, and the content's just great. Oh, yeah, I don't
That's
know.
awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing.
Well, last week he was jumping off his bed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he was jumping off the couch the other day. He's into jumping off things. We have
Hmm.
a we have a deck out back. It's not very high off the ground. It's maybe 8 to 10 inches off the ground. But then there's some benches built in with a backrest. So it's a good 3 feet off the ground if you're jumping from the top of the backrest of the bench. And he's like, I'm gonna go over here. I'm like, okay. And then he'll get up on the bench onto the backrest and then jump off it onto the grass. I'm like, we have steps literally 3 steps away. Like you just take 3 steps and you're down the steps. It's like, I know, but this is better. This is funner. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
the steps aren't fun.
I'm like, this is why you're always beat up and cuts and dirt smashed into your face. And I guess it's a boy thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and finally we have some weather. I had a brief Twitter back and forth with your wife yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we were I posted about it's down into the mid 90s. So yesterday was like 95 ish. So I can once again go back out on the back deck and have calls and just kind of take some breaks and relax out there. But the week before that, I think we had 4 or 5 straight days of like topping out at 103, 104. It was unbearably hot. But she was saying that her brother, right, was
Yeah, it's her
texting
brother.
her about how hot it is in Salt Lake. I'm like, well, we've had a little bit of a break. And she's like, well, they're filming a Christmas movie and they have to wear full winter outfits to film this, and it's 100 degrees outside. I'm like, that would be brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm going to be curious to watch this one because I mean they filmed some in Georgia, but they in the past will film them in like October because
Mm,
Hallmark is a machine when it
yeah,
comes to the Christmas movies, the Valentine's movies, the spring movies. Like, they are just a machine. They shoot them in 3 weeks and then are able to like turn them around and post in 3 to 4 weeks or something like that.
that's
Like
crazy.
because like in the past, he's normally shot in end of September into October,
Mm-hmm.
where it's a bit cooler out. He's done several in Georgia, and then he's done. I think he did two up in like Vancouver, up in that
Mm,
area. Now
mm-hmm.
those you could probably film in the summer because it's a bit cooler up there than say where you're at. And now I've never been to Vancouver, but I'm just kind of guessing. It doesn't get nearly as hot as as some of the other areas. I digress, though. So, like, yeah, they're out there filming in like what you would wear in the dead of winter in 100+ degree heat in Salt Lake right now. So
Ah,
it's
that
going
is
to be interesting
brutal.
to watch this one to see like if you pick up any of that in the background.
Well, it'd be interesting to watch because how do you shoot a winter movie when like I mean, you can't get any foliage or trees or anything because everything's in full bloom, right? Like,
Yeah, I have no clue,
I'm
but
sure they're
there,
much smarter than me, so I'm sure they have a way of figuring it out.
yeah, but I think one of the best ones he filmed was maybe 3 years ago, where it's a movie about a they came in and took over the small town in Georgia to film a movie about an actress coming to a small town to take over the town to film a movie. It was it was movie
It's a total
Inception.
inception. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So,
Uh,
yeah.
so I really don't have a topic today. I am totally behind on episode planning.
Uh,
But I figured this is one where we could just kind of chat on the fly. We'll talk about what we're seeing currently out there right now in the world of digital analytics, and because I know we've kind of done this before at times, and it's actually turned out to be pretty good.
yeah.
So yeah, like just kind of shoot
Let's
the
do
shit about
it.
what we're seeing.
Yeah, and maybe it'd be a fun time to experiment with a shorter runtime. What if we go 30 minutes and see what that how that impacts things since we
Yeah,
don't really have anything carved out. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting timing. I don't know if you saw all the chatter this morning and last night from Google about the server-side tagging framework stuff.
I
Um,
saw it this morning. I haven't had a chance to look into it yet, so I'm curious. I'll look into that this
I mean,
afternoon.
the big players have been talking about this for a while now.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been on the landscape. I don't know what the big. I haven't had enough time to dig into the blog posts and things that Google put out this morning to see why or what happened today. If there was some kind of major switch that was thrown or something. But I know Adobe's also talking a lot about server-side tagging. It's an interesting topic. I see, why they're going down that path. It solves a lot of potential issues that we're seeing in kind of the browsers taking a more heavy-handed approach to analytics and starting to clamp things down more and more. You see Safari kind of taking the lead with
Hmm.
ITP, kind of really locking things down. I don't know if it was Firefox or Chrome. One of them recently said that they're going to stop passing. What was
It
it?
was Chrome, and
Query string parameters, or
it was the
I
full
don't know.
referrer,
The
so
full
it'll be just
refer, right?
just referring domain.
So yeah, I mean, it really is maybe the driving force that's pushing a lot of these conversations. I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't know that I still fully understand what it means. Like, what does it mean to have a server side implementation? Is it like going back to the early days of web analytics where we were basically taking server logs and doing server log processing? I'm sure it's more structured than that. We're kind of making proactive choices, but it's still fuzzy in my head.
Yeah, it's definitely evolving because I think that there's multiple things at play here. So you're seeing the death of the cookie, but
Yeah.
I also think it's
But to be fair, that's been rumored since 2001,
true,
2002. But
true,
yeah,
but like
we're
it
we're
seems,
we're getting closer maybe.
yeah, it's another step in that direction
Yeah.
toward cookies dying. I think there'll always be some form of identification on a browser,
Mhm.
but the bigger thing with it, though, is I feel this is also another step in the direction of building up that wall around the various suite of products that are out there.
Mm.
Because I have to look into what Google's talking about, but I would have to think if you're using server side tagging, which would basically be is deploy our global tag to your site, collect the data, and then pass that off to your vendor.
Yeah.
There's got to be some level of cookie sync happening there. Syncing the cookie or ID. It's an ID sync. However, they eventually set the ID. The ID is going. There's going to be, say, a global ID, for whatever platform you're using to collect the data client side, or and then bring that in. Maybe there's probably some hooks in their server side
Yeah.
to further enhance that data, and then sending it off to your vendor. Well, you're going to have to send it off with the vendor's ID. So there's definitely got to be some kind of ID matching going on there. But what I think
Yeah.
that ultimately means is that's further pushing people into a vendor ecosystem.
Yeah. I'm pulling up on developers.google.com their server side intro, seeing if I can kind of scan it real quickly. I mean, I didn't prep for this. I should have maybe read it ahead of time, but um, it is interesting. I'm wondering customers cloud server container how clients work. I'm assuming that you're still sending the data. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to kind of read through that afterwards. But it looks like from just the overview that part of the setup is that you spin up an analytics container on a Google Cloud server. Like you're literally spinning up a server, but it's on Google. And I'm wondering, is that going to be similar for Adobe, where like you're creating a server, and so now we're not talking about billing for server calls, but we have kind of this server model, kind of like an Amazon where you're going and renting an actual physical server that's going to run your server-side analytics, and you now pay for server time. Yeah, I mean, it'll be an interesting. We definitely need to dig into it, and it seemed like it kind of came to a head quickly. With that said, I'm not an optimist in this space where unless there's something drastic that happens that literally you can't send any digital data from the browsers JavaScript wise to vendors, it's just not going to be an overnight change. Like we've seen, dude, I talked to a prospect, and I'm not going to out them, about 3 weeks ago. And as part of the prep for that call, I started digging through their website. They were on like H14 code, deployed on the page. I don't know when H14 came out, like 2008, 9, maybe 10.
Yeah,
Um,
something like that,
a
like 8 or 9.
long time ago. I with these like drastic changes. I may need to shut the door here. With these drastic changes in tagging methodologies, what's your thought? Are we going to get to a point of fatigue? Because so in the Adobe ecosystem, we went from their tag manager, which really never got any legs underneath it. Then they acquired Satellite, and transitioned that into DTM, and so everyone kind of migrated to DTM. We're now in the midst and kind of in the next 6 months coming up with tying a bow on migrating everyone off of DTM to launch. Um, Google Tag Manager has gone through various iterations. If he gets too annoying, let me know. I'll swing the door shut.
No, I think it's
It's
awesome to hear
awesome.
that in the background. Yeah.
Um, and now we're saying, okay, we're going to create new tag containers and spin up servers on Google. So that's a new implementation. We have other vendors entering the space where it's even less defined than that. And we're talking about schemas and developing just kind of less loosely defined ways of implementing. Um, are we going to get to a point where we have implementation fatigue? It's like, when are we going to stop implementing all the time and just start using this data? Like, we, right?
No, I'm already there. I've been there. I feel like we're in a constant cycle of implementation and re-implementation. Um, and no, I definitely think we're already there. But what pushes people to do it's always going to feel like it's going to be the small little things, or like these backdoor ways. Like I think Google cutting off the full refer. In the grand scheme of things, is it major? Yeah, depending upon your business, maybe, but it's going to be kind of one of those small little pains. But it's going to be things continuing to do things like that as you see consolidation in the space, where it's going to be, if you just used all of our tools in the ecosystem, in our ecosystem, you would have all of this data. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, you use double click or whatever they're calling it today, for your marketing. You have Adobe Analytics. You have Salesforce for email. Well, right now, like there's no easy way like there used to be in the past when you had all of just the small individual ESPs. When you had there was Eat Dialogue, and of course now that I'm going to say it, I'm going to blank on the rest of them. Exact Target was another one.
Yeah.
Um, you had those free connections into your analytics to get that pre-click data in, and then be able to send segment data over to your ESP. But as they've gotten gobbled up slowly but surely, those little free connectors are gone. So there feels like a break right there. I've got Adobe Analytics and I've got Salesforce Marketing Cloud, um, for email. It's hard to connect the two. And then I use Google for my marketing. I use Adobe Analytics, but Google is no longer passing refer the full refer through the browser. But if you have Google Analytics, there's a server-side connection between Google Analytics and the marketing tools. You'll get that full refer. So I don't know if that completely answers your question, but
No, it does.
well,
And it makes me think.
I
Oh,
was
go
just gonna
ahead.
say, and that's how they justify the constant implementation and re-implementation. If you just add this, you just add that, and then something else will be taken away. Well, if you just add this over here as part of our suite, you'll get that.
Yeah, and it makes me think back to remember the time when Google started hiding search keywords,
Uh-huh.
and we thought that was going to be the end of analytics, but it wasn't. I mean, people adapted, and you move on. Um, that may continue to happen. Yeah. My question is, and maybe from a couple different perspectives, is how far does Google push this? Because at some point in time, to me, this feels like it's bordering on predatory business practices, maybe even monopolies. I mean, how far are they willing to push it to risk I can't focus. Risk the government stepping in with some antitrust things against them because yeah, I mean, it feels like this is a very strategic approach on their side to withhold information from the market with the solution of, but if you just buy our solution, then magically behind the scenes we'll get that back to you. It seems bordering on unethical, maybe even illegal. I'm interested in how far they're going to push it. So that's one thing, and then the other thing to think about, again, coming back to fatigue, how far are these vendors, Adobe, Google, others in this enterprise space, willing to push it with consumers, with customers, to the point where they just throw their arms up and say, "We're sick of it. We're done. Like we're gonna go back to a more simple way of doing things because this constant changing the framework on us is not delivering on any additional value, and we're done." Kind of jumping through these hoops every year.
Well, I think that's why they're going to do little things. Like I said, like the majority of people, it's going to be a small pain point that they're not including the full referrer. But it's nothing that is well, I can't say nothing. I can't be absolute because there could be. But again, it's going to be a small pain point for most. It's not going to be a killer. It's going to be continuing to do little things like that would help skirt any kind of like out and out what would be deemed predatory business practices.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to follow. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if not the United States government, but if other governments started looking into to Google from an antitrust perspective. It seems like they're kind of poking a sleeping bear, lion, some kind of animal that can viciously
Some kind of
attack you,
predator.
some kind of predator. Yeah, it's interesting. But nonetheless, I mean, browsers are making big changes. These companies have to be able to adapt to it. So I think there's a balance there. I mean, we definitely, again, if we're talking about what's kind of the chatter and new, that it's what I've seen the past couple weeks. For some reason, this whole server side approach has picked up a lot of momentum really quickly here. Something definitely need to stay up on. It's hard to stay up on everything.
Hmm. Yeah, because there's always something new,
Yeah,
and it's those ones that don't seem obvious that always seem to get you.
yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Well, we will. I have quite a few little things that I saw come across my feeds this morning. We should link up some of these posts from Google about their new server side tagging. I don't know if it's new, but again, I think they're for some reason they're talking about it at a higher clip here, starting
Hmm.
yesterday, today. So that's what I got. What are you hearing?
Um, it seems like at least the those that on the ground right now, client wise, with a lot of things I'm hearing, like you're starting to see a lot of businesses coming out of like the COVID lockdown, like just like emergency, like we just need to keep the ship afloat for right now. And I'm seeing a lot of people coming out of that and trying to get back to some kind of level of like normal work, normal uh, use of data, normal use of just marketing vendors, and getting back to the way that things were. Because when the lockdowns really started to hit the middle to end of March, everybody just kind of like paused, and it was just like
Yeah.
we need to just do everything we can to keep the status quo. Well, now it's going back to business as usual, as far as trying to get new stuff deployed, try out the vendors and whatnot. That's the one thing I'm seeing a lot of over, say, the last 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, we talked about that early on that we have to kind of push through that stabilization phase and get back to being creative and doing what we can do now. It's still, I mean, a very precarious kind of landscape. We don't know, and I guess we never really know what the future holds. But it's good that we're kind of having more strategic conversations again. It's less reactionary, less panic. So I take that as a good thing. Um, I was gonna say I don't know what the numbers look like on our QA podcast with Eric, um, but it got a lot of really good chatter on social. It seemed to create lots of conversations.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but I'm already talking to him about having him back, and getting an episode with he and Jen scheduled. So I was
Yeah,
hoping to do that at the beginning of this week. That didn't happen. So hoping to get that scheduled like toward the end of this week, beginning of next week, and then we'll have that scheduled in a couple of weeks.
yeah, that'll be a fun one. I mean, it's clear that lots of companies realize they need this, but it's been the historical challenge of very few realize or understand how to do it. And I think the good thing is, at least kind of from our limited view on social around the episode, it seemed to kick off lots of conversations in lots of different companies. So very cool to see that happen. And that's kind of one of the goals I've had for the podcast is, we don't really solve lots of problems during our 60 minutes. I guess we're going to try to do 30 minutes today, which we're coming up on. But I think the one thing that we do really well is we kick off lots of conversations. We force people to think, right, and think
Mm-hmm.
about what they're doing and how they're doing things. And I think that's always a valuable activity. So if nothing else, hopefully we're causing people to slow down a little bit, take a step back and say, okay, well, what are we doing? How do we have this in play? As far as today, I wasn't even thinking about server side. So what does this mean? Should I start thinking about a 1 to 2 year plan for our implementation? And again, we're not solving that, but hopefully we're helping kickstart those conversations.
Yeah, and I don't think there's ever a like a one true answer that you're ever going to get to. The point is actually having the conversation, and not
Yeah,
necessarily seeking a solution to it.
agreed. Yeah, agreed. Um, well, should we try to wrap it and do 30 minutes and see what this
Yeah,
takes? It's like,
let's do a quick episode this week and see how folks respond to it.
it's crazy. We just talked for 30 minutes and it makes me realize how much more we were cramming into, and like that went by like that. We hardly got
Yeah,
to any depth. So, and I know an hour is a tough commitment for lots of people to listen to, and maybe we're not that enjoyable to listen to for an hour. I hope we are. But man, 30 minutes goes by super quick. In fact, when we first started talking about doing this, we said let's keep the episodes to 10 minutes. Like we wouldn't have even got anything done. We would have got the intros done. I'm like, all right, that's a wrap.
yeah,
So
we would have done the bullshitting and be like, all right, time to go.
yeah,
But
yeah,
no, like, yeah, let's see what people
yeah.
think of just this quick as compared to what we normally do.
Yeah,
Um, a more rapid conversation, see what kind of response we get. And,
let's
if
do it.
people seem to enjoy this more, I'm definitely cool with trying to maybe bring it into, a more consumable length.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Ultimately, we want people to listen, right? I mean, while we
Yeah,
enjoy doing this, it's a lot of work, and you put a lot of work into doing this, and we want to be creating something that the market wants to listen to because I think there's really valuable content here. And hopefully,
yeah,
adding things in like the video feed give people another option to do that. So, awesome.
definitely. Cool. So we'll go ahead and wrap up for now, and thank you much, and we'll catch everybody later.
See you.